I'm sorry, wait a minute, go ahead.
However, if you approve it tonight and you just get a follow-up from,
Racine,
RGB
RGB,
tomorrow.
good idea.
Get them to send you a letter.
okay,
Alright, whenever you're ready.
all right, okay. Good evening, welcome to the February 28th meeting of the Permanent Building Construction Committee. Bill Kensman, Vice Chair, acting as Chair for Bob Silk, who again is present today and on the mend. First item of business is the secretarial invoice for 2/7/19.
Move approval.
Any discussion on that?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, you seconded. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Move that we approve the secretary's invoice for January 31st, 2019.
Oh, we haven't paid for that either?
We tabled it last week,
Oh,
last meeting.
okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on that? We owed Linda for 2 weeks. No wonder you wanted to have a meeting, Linda.
No wonder she's so grouchy.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
So that was for, I'm sorry, Jerry, one what?
31.
31. Okay, could we have an approval on the minutes for 2/7/19? A motion for that.
Move to approve the minutes of February 7, 2019, as
Second.
presented.
Seconded by Steve. Did everybody read them?
Yeah.
No further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Move to approve the minutes of the P.B.C.C meeting of January 31, 2019.
So we must have
Yes,
tabled them as
We
well.
did.
Okay. Second on that, please.
I'll second it.
Oh, okay, don't fight over it, guys. Okay, seconded by Bob Silk. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, invoices.
Move that we approve the invoice from PJ's Plain Company, application number 5, dated 2/28/2019, amount of $56,419.31.
Okay, and I have a cover letter by the architect in front of me, a signature by the architect, and we're going to follow up with a signature by the OPM.
I'll ask for a letter that he approved.
Yeah,
Just as Steve said.
yeah, cover letter.
Yeah.
What percent is he at now?
So the approval is going to be,
87%.
87.
approval will be subject to verification from the RGB of approval of the amount.
Right.
87, that's January, 87%?
No, this is February.
And effect as of today,
87 and it's still in February?
yes.
Well, it was 2 days ago.
And we're looking for a substantial completion document from
No,
these guys?
well, substantial completion, they may be looking for it, Ted, but Mike Nee is holding their feet to the fire.
Well, yeah, but you see,
But this emphasis,
the substantial completion predates the punch list. They give, the way that really works, the architect or the contractor asks the architect if he can submit a letter of substantial completion. And if, if the punch list the architect has isn't too burdensome, he'll tell him to go ahead and then the contractor will submit his punch list, which becomes along with the architect's punch list. And then they have 2 weeks after that to satisfy all of the, but the thing is, what it does, it establishes out a closing date. And that's what I kept pushing it for.
I
Right now,
noticed you were pushing
we're
it.
walking around in a muddy puddle here.
I agree. I know because,
I saw and there were some heavy items on that thing. But this is the last day of February, and we were supposed to be finished at that time. And I know that, we run into weather problems and stuff. But I definitely want to see that. Maybe we won't have it from them today or tomorrow or Monday, but by Tuesday, I'm going to insist that we see a letter of substantial completion. It doesn't end the job, it just means that they get into the punch list phase.
So we still have 13% of the contract out there,
That's a lot.
plus the
Plus the
retainage.
change,
For this time of that part of the project, that's a lot.
Okay.
And by the way, that doesn't include the lantern or anything like that, that's all separate, right?
That's separate, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jerry made the motion. We need a second on that,
Second for what?
on paying the requisition.
I'll second that.
Okay. In the amount of $56,419.31. Is there any further discussion on this?
I think we
Steve?
just had it, so.
We had the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So, Ted, would you like to give the committee other than what we've just talked about,
We got a whole bunch more invoices,
huh? On the,
all kinds of things.
on the chapel?
They're all in the chapel.
Okay, I think, go ahead. Let's do it.
All right, then I move that we approve the payment to John Shea for $15,930.42. That represents 49% of the lantern restoration project.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
They're beyond that. The lantern's done.
Well, it's done and it's not up there. They haven't put those,
Lights in.
base plates down.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's a biggie.
that's a big, I know. But
That's gonna require coordination between Shea and
Spillane.
Spillane.
I know.
Tricky.
Okay, and that amount was how much, Jerry?
$15,930.42.
Okay, can we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, by Steve. Do we have any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move that we approve RGB's architectural invoice for December. We had tabled that because of an issue with Fred
Fred Love.
Love's time. We had an explanation of that. I'm satisfied that it's reasonable. That amount was $7,459.55.
What was this for?
This is for RGB, the OPM on the chapel, for the month of
For the
December.
month of December. We tabled it because we questioned an amount that he submitted on there for Fred Love.
How much was that?
And Fred Love's, I don't know.
Wait a
what-
second, I'll tell you.
Because John Racine is saying that Fred Love attended 2 site visits and a weekly project meeting. And he also did some research on flashing and mortar joints for them.
What is, yeah, so what did he get for that?
I think it was 2 days, 16 hours.
16.5 hours.
And what?
16.5.
No, what? What does it cost him?
$2,145. $130 an hour.
Is that what we agreed on? Is that what?
The
Oh,
rate's
he had a
fine.
high rate.
The rate is fine. It's just a question of whether he put in 16 hours in 1 month, and it appears he did.
I don't wanna see that again, we don't need that.
That's for sure.
We'll have to sign this one because we've already, we put it on hold, so obviously it was presented by RGM. But we don't have to sign the next one for February, because he's not here.
I agree. The
We'll
motion-
table the one for February, if he's submitted.
This is a motion made for the December.
Oh, I know that.
All right, can we
I
get with that one?
suggest we sign that one, but if there's one in there for January,
There is.
then we don't sign that because he's not here.
Well, I don't agree with that, but let's deal with one at a time, please.
Yeah, that's fine.
We are dealing with one.
So let's take a vote on the December invoice from RGB in the amount of,
$7,459.55.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Did somebody second it?
Yes. I don't know, who did second that? Was it you, Bob?
Yeah.
Was Bob? Okay, so the next one is from RGB.
Next one is also RGB, and that's for January, in the amount of $9,174.92.
When did he present that?
It's dated 1/30. no,
When
that's
did,
the
when
invoice.
did, when did we receive it? I mean,
It's dated January 31st, 2019, so we must have,
so he hasn't really discussed it at all with us. He wasn't here last time either, as I recall.
No, he wasn't.
As far as I'm concerned,
he was here the last time, that's how we got,
no, he
That's
wasn't, he wasn't here the last time.
Wait a minute, RGB wasn't here.
that was the time before.
Early February.
No, he was not here.
There's not,
We talked to him about love, but it was 2 meetings back.
Well,
I mean, if we're gonna pay him, the least he can do is be here as his contract. He's required to be here for these meetings, it's in his contract.
he said he was gonna be here too.
Yeah,
I think we ought to table that one, Jerry, until we,
and he's got one in there for February, ditto.
does he have one for February as well?
No, he doesn't have one for February.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna
No,
give
I
him a
just
call.
thought,
I'm
this
gonna
is my
call him
personal
tomorrow.
opinion, I mean, if you guys don't wanna agree.
No. Especially when I said something to Dave Green. I said, I would expect you or John to be there Thursday night, this Thursday.
I said the same thing, and he said he would. This is 2 nights in a row.
Okay, next invoice.
I have an invoice from GNAP Design for $3,000, which was the, something you should have sent us back in December for the reconfiguration and rebidding of the chapel project. Second,
You
it's the
mean
end,
breaking it into the different,
into 2 and 3 contracts.
okay.
We had agreed to 3,000, and we agreed to 13,300. We paid him to 10-3 for the documents, and 3,000 was for the bidding. We never paid that invoice because we never got it. So this invoice is for $3,000 for the completion of that project. Move that we approve it.
Okay, second on that invoice?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ted. Any further discussion on that? We already agreed to it, so. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a second invoice from GNAP, which is for the construction administration work on the chapel, the masonry portion, $9,450. And that is invoice number 12, which goes through the end of February today.
I'll second that one.
Seconded by Ted. Okay, GNAP has been earning his money up
Yeah,
there.
he's,
So-
that must include the Stephanie's work too. He would be charging, 'cause she's working for him.
That's right. It must include
Okay, so
Stephanie.
she's been out there 2 or 3 times now.
She's been out there more than she needs to be.
Yeah.
She's on that, she's
So,
on that.
I'm all in favor of paying that invoice
Yeah,
to
I-
GNAP? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
All right, final invoice is also GNAP. This is for construction administration on the lantern at $4,400.
Again, I think he's earned that too, because he's been going back and
He's
forth.
been going to that shop, you know what?
So I move approval.
All right, will you second that?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Ted is gonna second that. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, we've done the invoices. Ted,
I'm gonna put those with this.
I haven't signed a one yet.
Thank you.
I haven't signed a one.
I got a bottleneck here, come on, will you?
Yeah, I know, hey. Ted, would you like to update the committee on what's happening at the chapel, where we are?
Yeah, just a second.
See, he can't sign and talk at the same time.
I can't chew gum either.
don't need to go, just sign.
Okay. All right. Don't know what you guys are up to date as to the way things have been going, but right now, the outside staging is pretty much down, and you get a pretty good look at the work. My opinion, my personal opinion, and having done some of this work, that it's well worth a trip up there if you can spare the time, because this is good reclamation for masonry, old masonry that I've seen. They punched in the face of the mortar, you know, in the joints, and I think they've done a great job. And I know for a fact that they drilled in the anchors. I watched them do it. And I think, I'm not quite sure, I think they had 2 or 3 guys working out there, not including their foreman, who I think is probably as good as they come, the young guy there, John.
He learned from his grandfather. That's, he told me, he learned from his grandfather.
Oh, yeah, that's the way it usually is.
Yeah.
Usually those guys, they're all about 5'4", they all wore funny hats and their fingers look like they've been beaten with a sledgehammer. But anyway, I think that the job is going well. Inside, we've run into some problems in a couple of areas. What we thought was effervescence on the interior turns out to be what they call a wash of mortar. Instead of doing the repointing at some time in the past, they just washed it on there and pushed it in. I think everybody's seen that. And the problem is that we can't get off, that doesn't come off with the usual techniques. It's not effervescence. And if you try and force it off, it begins to cause the face of the brick to deteriorate. In some cases it breaks off. So rather than have that, getting as clean as you can, getting all of the old legs and stuff off there, we kind of accepted it, that that's what it has to be. The effervescence, for the most part, is taken off, but inside there are some areas where, again, because of the incredible amount of moisture in the east wall, because it's not a sun wall, and we're hoping that it's going to leach out over the years to come. But right now, if we rub the wash down, which is what they have done, a wash down, but getting some of that effervescence off, again, the same thing is happening. It's been on there so long, it begins to attack the surface of the brick. And in some cases, the brick has kind of become soft because of the moisture. So they got off as much as they could, and looking at it, it's just about all we can hope for, because you start to pull off the face of the brick, which has caused really lots of problems. So we made the decision that, given the fact they have washed down the entire interior of the thing, we'll go with what it is. That doesn't mean they haven't tried getting some of the effervescence. Some of it's coming off, but there are some areas, particularly, as I say, on the interior face of the east wall. That's over in the chantry.
And it is up high.
Yeah, it's up high. There's some problems we've discovered up with some of the wood that's up in the hidden roof situation that we all know about. And they've taken another look at that, and they found some replacement construction that needs to go forward, and before that they can put that second roof down and repair that. So that's where they are. They're in the process of repairing that, and that has a kind of a contributory effect on the coordination between Spillane, who's in charge of the flashing for the capstones that go on the top of the wall and the roof, so that they're having a big discussion about who owns this and who owns that, staging, cleaning the snow off, and all these kinds of things. And if it wasn't so uncomfortable listening to them talk about it, would be funny, but it's definitely something they're trying to get together on, find out how they're gonna do this, and right now, that kind of is slowing things down a little bit. And there's some talk about coordination of the location of the lantern. Lantern is complete. All of the finials and all of the metal parts and all of that. And the thing is just about ready to be delivered. But they're still having problems setting these base plates, which has an angle bracket that as the base plate goes down, it addresses the one that's set there when they built the building. So that the two things have to come together and be fastened. So they're debating about how they're gonna do that, and it's the usual discussion of, well, we gotta hurry up and get this done, and of course, then there's the snow and all the rest of that, so. But as I said before, the staging on the outside of the building is, for the most part, down. They're gonna take away the ground box, which they call their office. That, as a matter of fact, they were gonna take away this one, weren't they? The so-called office in the field with them.
They are they are gonna take
Oh, yeah,
that.
they did,
they're
and they're gonna
gonna
take the fence down too. So, that will just open up the place so you can just go up and take a look at it. I think, by and large, we're well on really doing what I think we set out to do. The condition and stability of the building, I think, is greatly improved by what we've done. There's still some fussy things to be worked out. As a matter of fact, there's a list of these things that the architect has put together. And he and Spillane's field guy are working it out to determine exactly, what the priorities are and how they're gonna take care of those items. But essentially, they all have to be done before we take over the project, so. I can't think of anything else. I understand the DPW is probably gonna do most of the landscaping and stuff after the contractor's off the job, which hopefully will be coming in March sometime, late March, early April.
By the way, I spoke to Paul Rinaldi about having a mason come in to cut the slot for the sleeve and anchor the plaque, and he said that he would be able to take care of it.
Okay, well, don't do anything until, because that we looked into the plaque. There's a
Limestone.
There's a
lintel.
limestone beam that runs
Yeah.
the length of the nave horizontally from front to back. And so we had to make a decision. That beam is 21 inches to the bottom of it, above the old, I don't know if you've seen this, Steve, or if have you been in the building?
No, it's like-
Well, if you go there, and you go down the nave, on the right side, halfway down, there's a plaque. I think it's a kind of a onyx marble plaque. I think it's onyx. And it describes a lot of stuff, I guess, they put on there years ago. The new plaque is going just above that. And in order to make it work, in my opinion, it should be underneath the beam and above that plaque. It's a distance of about 21 inches. And it's kind of fallen on me to try and figure out what kind of text is going to go on the plaque. I mean, you start out with a billboard the size of that thing down South Norwood, and you kind of work your way down. So,
Our sense is rededicated May 2019. End of story.
the electrical fixtures, I think they found some wiring problems that they're looking into.
Yes.
And they are going to clean. I was surprised to hear that the electrical light fixtures weren't original, but I guess in 2003 they weren't making those. I mean 1903. But
They have electricity?
yeah, so we may be looking at a problem with the wiring. Nobody's really come back to us and tell us exactly what to expect on that. And there's this door. There's a special door, which is largely T&G boards, vertical boards and stuff. Am I boring you guys with this? And they're gonna assemble this door and it's gonna go in a rather obscure place, but it's at the base of the tower where the lantern goes on top of that.
It's only a 2-foot wide door, too.
Yeah,
It's very,
yeah.
it must have been for the clergy maybe to come in that way, because that comes right into the chantry, doesn't it?
Well, I think it was
It's in
put in
steel.
before they put the,
The stairwell.
I think it was put in before they put the stairs from the outside. I think it was the original way to get down into the
Into the
basement.
basement?
Into the basement, yeah.
Wow.
So,
They left a lot of room for a big workman, didn't they?
yeah. I can think of a funny story that goes along with
Yeah,
that.
that's okay.
But we haven't discussed too much of what the floor is. I think maybe with the fact that the staging is still up, they're kind of looking at, but there's something going forward with the treatment of the floor. And we haven't got to that point yet, so, or at least not in my exposure to these discussions, I don't remember it coming up. But that's a subject I want to bring up when we go out there Tuesday. So, that's the general gist of it, so.
We're not gonna take the fence down until all the exterior scaffolds down, right?
Yeah,
It's a safety
that's
hazard.
down now.
All the exterior?
Yeah, all the staging is down, as far as I know, except maybe on the back side where they go access to the roof, I'm not
Right.
sure.
When
I
I
only
was
saw-
out there 2 days ago, there was still more staging at the back.
Well, yeah, but it's because of the roof.
That's right, and that's okay, but my point is, we can't take the fence down till all
Yeah, I
that's.
understand, they understand that too.
We impressed upon them because at the meeting is that you can't take the fence down completely until
No, it's an
until
OSHA
the
thing.
staging's gone, because you don't want kids climbing up.
That's
against
exactly
it.
my point, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a safety
No,
hazard.
no, it's OSHA.
Yeah.
It's definitely OSHA. Anyway, they won't do it because it makes them liable and they're gonna do that. So, any questions, anybody?
So we're pretty confident that all of those arguments they're having about who owns this and who owns that, all the arguments on the roof, who owns this, who owns that, it's pretty clear we don't own any of it.
No.
Have they started any work?
Well, we own the fact that there are two roofs. In other words, there's the roof that,
The chantry, you're talking
the
about the
roof,
chantry.
the small roof in the chantry that you see from the underside, which allegedly the wood ceiling in the chantry was suspended from, was the original roof. Unfortunately, and I'll give you a reason why, they decided at some point, not the contractor, but some in the life of the building, it was decided to put a second roof. And the reason for that is that they changed the pitch. Now, in my opinion, they changed the pitch because the roof at the nave is a gabled roof that came down onto that chantry roof. And what was happening, because it was metal, the snow was sliding right down and ganging up on that low roof, and it wasn't washing off the way you would want to. So they changed the slope so that they made a small part of that a place to collect the snow, and then changed the slope to create a better
two
gravity
directions
flow
now.
to the drains.
It's two directional now, right? Two pitches.
They actually put a hip construction. They went to a hip construction. So the point is that they were driving the load of the snow over to the exterior where the walls are, better than leaving it out in the middle where that's 30, 40 pound per square foot load, I mean, by today's codes.
The architect actually estimates that was done in the 30s.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Judging from the sheathing, it was T&G 4 inches wide.
Right. But the question I was asking, there was a discussion earlier where there was some question about who owned shoveling the snow off the roof, who owned some little things here and there. As long as we don't have to pay for it, they can sort it out for themselves, I don't care.
Well, my comment was, you took a job in the winter. Do you want to work or do you want to go home? And the snow was negligible. Trust me, it would not be.
Right, but there's gonna be two more snowstorms
I think
Saturday and Monday, so.
to that, I think they were, I think I came away from that meeting, could feel there was a couple of gentlemen,
They're gonna work
without
it out.
having had a beer or something, they sorted it out on the way
They
over.
sorted it out,
All
yes.
right, that's fine.
Has Shay determined how long it's gonna take them to finish the roof job?
Well, you know, they're still whining about there's no boards on the staging, or at least they say they're under this stuff up there that belongs to Spillane, and Spillane say, no, it belongs to you, blah, blah, blah. That's all part of the argument, so.
Yeah.
The pictures I saw that David Green took showed all the boards had been replaced and the water shield had been put down, and they were putting the back flashing onto the parapets. So they should be ready to put the copper roof down
They
pretty damn
should be.
quick.
They should be.
The copper, yeah.
Well, it's, the big thing is really the capstones,
Yes, that's right.
because they still have to drill in those reinforcing rods to.
But the flashing looked like it was pretty much done, ready to do that. They're putting the flashing on first, right? Then they're gonna drill through the flashing.
Yeah.
Yep.
the-
So they should be ready to do that.
But that's all I got to say. Man, if anybody has any questions, a word on the stained glass, the Azer, that's the name of the contract, in case anybody doesn't know. As far as I know, everything's done as far as the manufacture of these things. Now they're at the point where they're going to install them, and I guess that's going to be an individual effort on the part of Azer to install the windows themselves, and they're providing their own staging and access to the openings and all of that stuff. So that should be done sometime during this coming month. That's why I'd like to see those guys out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all I got. Anything else?
So, if there's no more on the chapel, Ted, how about the window project
Well,
for the
I
town?
got a little, I won't call it a disagreement, but I got a different view on the fact that whether or not the architect has to be requested by Ed to do the job. Because I found in the most up-to-date DCAM regs, or the mass regs for this, and I'm not gonna go into it, I know, and I've already talked to Kathy about it, I haven't anything back from her, but I directed her to these paragraphs where, and I'm hoping I understand it correctly, I just wanna make sure that she looks at it. Because it clearly states that, and I'll try to summarize it correctly, that if you had somebody on the job and that, and he's done the work well, and and you want to continue with that particular architect, you can do that. You can even hire a separate guy, in this case it would be Thompson Lichtner, as a special expert to do the testing and so forth, that would be given over to the architect to do the work. I mean, the verbiage is there.
Is this ringing bells with you?
Doesn't ring that much of a bell, but we don't usually do it on a different scale that would require different selection.
It's
Okay.
there. It's under, it's not DCAM, it's the Mass State regs. But
Okay.
if anybody's interested, I'll get it. I don't have it with me today, but it's there. I have it, and the older version, the 2008 version, was much clearer. And I was thinking that it was something that, that was a big argument back then, I remember, because in the old days, when we started out the high school, just as a, backstory, the big problem was that the architect that was going to do the programming and everything for the school, at that time was not allowed to be the architect you gave the job to. But after that, they recognized that there was weakness in that law, so that they changed it so then the architect who did the program could then take over the project and go through it. This is essentially the same thing.
So this is in Kathy's lap right now?
Well, I told her where to look for it. I had it all written down, so
And
she may have been too. I'll give her a call tomorrow, find out what she said.
So she never advertised it, huh?
I don't know.
So you may
She
need a
hasn't
different, you
yet.
may need a different procurement, I mean, I think you could have him look at that and make an assessment kind of as an additional service, but as an entirely separate project.
Well, that's the point. It's not a separate project. It's part of the rehab of the exterior of the building.
It's a project, Steve, that we started and then we
Right.
stopped because we put sensors up there, and we didn't have a northeaster for a long, long time. And so the job just, it was out there, but it just never got done. And finally, we brought in Thompson Lickner, they did testing, they found out that there were leaks
Yeah.
around, many of the windows and so forth and so on. And GNAP actually wrote up
Well,
some,
actually, GNAP headed up that whole effort.
that's right.
He was even up on the cherry picker.
Okay, if you have a chance, will you call her so
Yeah,
we
I'll try and get in touch with him.
and see what she has to say? Jerry, what about you in the town hall? Are we doing anything there?
Oh, we're doing things, but it's moving pretty slowly. Right now, the town manager's in Singapore on a federal government grant to send town managers to other countries to find out how things are done there. I have no idea why, but they're paying for it, so he's out there. And I think he's going somewhere else after Singapore. So in any event, he's not around. So we have had a couple of meetings with him, and they've been working on trying to decide which departments are gonna move down to the light department, and therefore what spaces will be available to open up. General assessment now is the third floor will be totally opened up, and all the people there will be moved to other places. Planning and those sorts of things will go upstairs, so they'll all be together. Then we got issues about how do you secure the room, or leave the tower open for tours when the town hall is closed. A few other issues. So will be another meeting sometime after the town manager gets back. Soon.
How long is he in Singapore for?
I think it's 2 weeks. But I think it's Singapore and one other place, maybe Malaysia or whatever. But any event, he's away for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So nothing much going on at this point. I frankly don't think he's interested, personally, in doing anything significant in the next year.
Well, at one point, he was interested in the electric system.
So,
He's also interested in finding some magic money machine somewhere.
Yeah, all right.
so what's with this yellow wire we have here? This is new.
That is, I suspect that's the computer system.
Okay.
They're going to wireless around the place, so that's probably connecting all the modems to the third floor.
Okay.
As far as I know, there's no new business.
New business, we do have some.
Oh,
It's- It's, Bob passed around a resume of a potential new member. Bob, go ahead.
This gentleman, Michael Lane.
Do you have any more of these?
No, I didn't have enough of them. I got his one. He heard we were looking for someone. He's on the capital outlay committee. So I talked to him on the phone and he sent in a resume. I had originally talked about coming to visit us in March, but I don't know. What are the dates in March now, Bill?
Well, we haven't set them yet, Bob, but I'm gonna say they're probably the 14th and the 28th.
Yeah, so I'll have to get back to him and ask him if he can make the 14th.
So it's a real estate guy.
Yeah. So he came to us, he sent us his resume, he's interested. He's been on the capital outlay committee for a few years. So he knows a little of what's going on in the town in terms of
He's a young guy.
facilities. That's the only lead we have.
Can't get an engineer, can
Well, it'll be interesting to chat with him. I'm not overly impressed by this resume.
Well, we had people on the committee years ago that were not engineers or architects.
I don't have a problem with not being an engineer and architect, but
Yeah.
you need to have some idea what's going on.
Well,
out there.
the law is the law. It's there. It's called, what's it, 193 or something like that.
And it says what?
It says that you have to be either an engineer or an architect to actually be the chairman for these committees that handle municipal funding. And you have to have as a chairman, you can, if you're involved with work that is, in your background, that's similar to what you're required to do when you're on the committee, you have 5 years of experience as, in that work. If you don't, and you're still an architect and engineer, you would have 7 years in other work. So, that's where we're left. So anybody on the committee is supposedly had to have a construction background.
Well, finance and construction might be arguably that too.
Well, everything here points to,
He's a real estate guy.
yeah.
That's
Listen,
what
the meetings are open. If he'd like to come, we'll meet him.
Sure.
We'll take it from there. Okay.
When did we set for our meetings?
Say that again.
When did we set our meetings? Next meetings?
The meetings are gonna be, I'm gonna say 14/28.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Because what should happen by the time we're on the 14th, we should be coming around 4th Street on the chapel.
Yes.
I'm just so you know, I'm gonna be away the 14th.
So we have invoice on the 14th for February, huh?
No, 14th of
March,
March.
have the invoice for February?
Yeah, no, actually, the contract said that we should get it done, the pencil wreck on the 21st, but they've agreed to have that all squared away, and we'll only have one pass at the requisition. I would think by the 21st, that would end Spillane. If by the 14th, we realize they can't make the 21st, we should change that 21st date to the 28th.
Well,
But
that's
we
why
shouldn't
I'm
go
saying
beyond the 28th.
That's why I'm saying 14/28. Our meeting should be the 14th
Oh,
and the
okay. I
28th.
thought we
That's
said
what
the
he- that's what
21st.
he said.
No,
Okay.
no, the 28th.
Okay, that's good. I'll go with
That's
that.
why I didn't schedule a meeting for this week until the other day, because he hasn't really been on the stick for getting his requisitions in.
So the one we, excuse me, the one we talked about with the 7th will not happen. It'll be-
The 7th is next week, no,
Okay,
yeah.
that's good.
14 and 28.
Are you going to talk to RGB then about,
Bet your life I am.
somebody's got to, just a question of who?
Bet your life I am. Right here.
All right.
You wanna take care of that, Bill?
What, calling RGB? No problem,
Don't be nice.
don't worry.
Move to adjourn.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that was the January invoice that we did not approve, right?
Correct.
Okay,
You probably have a February invoice by the 14th.
yeah.
You can bring it with
Yeah,
you.
but he said he would be here. He told you and he told me.
Well, he didn't make it.
Okay,
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, he's still submitting these bills for doing his job.